The courthouse is packed as Daniel Miller goes on trial for the murder of his wife, Grace. Tension hangs thick in the air of this Midwest courtroom. Daniel sits at the defense table, jaw clenched and eyes hollow, as prosecutors paint him as a man driven by passion and betrayal. His secret affair with Grace's own sister, Lauren, is a lurid centerpiece of the state's case. The hidden motive behind this family tragedy finally laid bare. Prosecutor: he killed his wife to be with her sister. The DA thunders, laying out a tale of forbidden love turned lethal. In the gallery, Grace's parents clutch each other's hands. A mother stifles sobs as photographs of her missing daughter flash on a screen. Daniel's fate now rests in the hands of 12 jurors, and every eye in the room is on him. Under somber courtroom sketches and hushed whispers, the prosecution presents a meticulous case built on circumstantial evidence. With no body ever found, they rely on every other shred of proof to convince the jury that Grace is dead and Daniel is to blame. Investigators recount the grim timeline. Grace vanished one summer night after an argument with Daniel and was never seen again. A neighbor testifies to hearing a scream from the Miller house around midnight. Detectives describe Daniel's odd behavior in the days after, how he didn't join the search parties and seemed strangely calm when Grace disappeared. And then come the forensics. A crime scene analyst reveals that traces of Grace's blood were found in the trunk of Daniel's car. Faint but undeniable. They show the jury's soil and plant material stuck to the undercarriage of Daniel's pickup, matching a remote lakeside area where police suspect he disposed of Grace's body. The message is clear. There may not be a corpse, but there's plenty of proof a murder happened. Key evidence presented by prosecutors. Motive: the affair. Multiple witnesses, including Lauren herself, confirmed Daniel and Lauren were romantically involved in secret. Prosecutors argue this illicit relationship was the powder keg that set the tragedy in motion. Grace had no idea about the affair, but Daniel stood to gain freedom and even financial benefit, a $250,000 life insurance policy on Grace. By eliminating his wife, forensic clues, a DNA expert testifies that Grace's blood was found soaked into an old tarp in Daniel's garage and on a broken bracelet identified as hers. A cadaver dog had alerted near the trunk of Daniel's car, hinting at the scent of human remains. These clues suggest a violent end for Grace, even if her body is missing. Digital evidence. Phone records place Daniel near Grayson Lake, 20 miles outside town, at 2 a.m. the night Grace vanished, precisely the kind of secluded spot one might hide a body. Security camera footage from a gas station en route shows Daniel's truck passing by in the early hours. Meanwhile, Grace's cell phone and credit cards went dark after that night. She's made no calls, no purchases, no social media posts since. Grace Miller didn't just walk away from her life. The prosecutor says gravely, the only reasonable explanation is that she was killed. Each point hits the courtroom like a sledgehammer. We see jurors exchanging uneasy glances as the evidence piles up. Without a body, proving murder is difficult but not impossible. In fact, more than 500 no-body murder trials have been held in the U.S., and they actually boast a higher conviction rate than typical murder cases. Prosecutors in Daniel's case seem confident they have those 3 legs of the stool needed to convict: strong forensics, a compelling motive, and damning circumstantial facts. Still, Daniel's defense isn't giving up. They're about to counter with a narrative of their own, one that will throw everything into question. One by one, witnesses take the stand, turning the courtroom into a stage of raw emotion. Grace's best friend trembles as she recalls the last conversation they had. Grace was excited to start a family and utterly unaware of the storm brewing behind her back. A tearful co-worker describes how Grace lit up every room she entered, leaving several jurors misty-eyed. The most heart-wrenching moment comes when Grace's mother testifies, holding up her daughter's wedding photo. She trusted him, the mother whispers, voice quavering as Daniel avoids her gaze. We all trusted him. The weight of betrayal is palpable. Even Daniel wipes at his eyes during the mother's testimony. But the spotlight soon shifts to the person at the center of the scandalous love triangle, Lauren. The prosecution calls Lauren as a key witness, and the atmosphere crackles with anticipation. Dressed in black and visibly shaking, Lauren walks to the stand looking like a woman haunted by guilt. She's the only living person who loved both the victim and the accused, and her every word could sway the jury's hearts. On the witness stand, Lauren dabs her eyes with a tissue, voice cracking as she answers the prosecutor's questions. She admits to the affair openly. "I am so sorry," she says, casting a glance toward Grace's family. Lauren explains how she and Daniel grew close while helping with Grace's kids and household when Grace worked late shifts. One thing led to another, and by the time she realized it was wrong, they were in too deep. "I never meant to hurt my sister," Lauren pleads, tears rolling down her face. She claims Daniel had promised to leave Grace for her, but that she never ever wanted Grace harmed. In fact, Lauren testifies that when Grace went missing, she was horrified to learn Daniel was suspected. "I lost my sister and someone I cared about deeply, all at once," she sobs, painting herself as a woman caught in a nightmare she can't escape. The courtroom is dead silent, except for Lauren's shaky voice. Her grief seems genuine. Even a few jurors have wet eyes. But under the surface of her testimony, there's an unsettling undercurrent. Defense attorney: "Lauren, let's be clear. You benefited from Grace's disappearance, didn't you? You got Daniel all to yourself." The defense's cross-examination is like a knife. Lauren stiffens, protest in her throat. She insists she had nothing to do with whatever happened to Grace. Yet, the defense presses on with pointed questions that hang in the air. Did Lauren know more than she's saying? Could she have helped Daniel plan the murder? At one point, Lauren's composed facade slips. When the attorney confronts her with a flurry of accusatory scenarios. "You were jealous of your sister, weren't you? You wanted her gone." Lauren's tearful sorrow flashes into anger. "No, I love my sister," she snaps, voice rising before she breaks down crying. The judge has to call a brief recess as Lauren doubles over in sobs. The pressure of the interrogation too much to bear. Whispers ripple through the gallery. Was that the sound of an innocent woman pushed to her emotional limit, or a guilty conscience cracking? Even Daniel watches Lauren with a complex expression. Sorrow, love, and perhaps distrust? In the hallways during recess, rumors buzz. Maybe they were in on it together. One local reporter tweets. It's a shocking notion, but not without precedent. True crime aficionados recall a real case in the UK where a woman murdered her own sister because she was having an affair with the victim's husband. In that case, the murderous sister acted alone, but many believe the cheating husband had secretly pulled the strings. Could history be repeating itself here in the Midwest? The courtroom drama is far from over, and the biggest revelations are yet to come. Just when it seems the prosecution's narrative is solid, the defense launches bombshell revelations to shake up the trial. Their strategy becomes clear. Inject reasonable doubt by any means possible. First, they call an unexpected witness, a local gas station clerk who swears she saw Grace alive after the night in question. A gasp ripples through the audience. The middle-aged clerk testifies that, "About a week after Grace went missing, I could swear I saw her at our station, late at night. She looked upset and in a hurry." According to this witness, the woman resembled Grace and was driving a car with out-of-state plates. "I didn't realize it was her until I saw the news later," she says, apologetically. The defense leans hard on this account to suggest an alternative theory. What if Grace wasn't murdered at all? What if she discovered the affair, felt betrayed, and chose to disappear to start a new life? Murmurs in the jury box. Could it be true? The idea sounds far-fetched, but the seed of doubt is planted. The prosecution hits back by questioning the clerk's credibility. It's dark, late, and she admittedly only thought it was Grace. No surveillance video corroborates the sighting. It might be a case of mistaken identity. They argue, nothing more. For a moment, it looks like the defense's bold move might fizzle. But then comes twist number 2, and it's even more shocking. In a risky move, Daniel Miller takes a stand in his own defense. It's rare for a murder defendant to testify, and the courtroom collectively holds its breath. Daniel raises his right hand, swears to tell the truth, and gazes out the court with red-rimmed eyes. Daniel, voice trembling, "I did not kill my wife. I love Grace. I still do." His attorney gently guides him. Why did he lie to police about his whereabouts that night? Daniel admits he was terrified. "When Grace vanished, I knew how bad it looked. I panicked. He confirms he drove out of Grayson Lake in the middle of the night, but claims it wasn't to dump a body. It was to clear his head. I sometimes go night fishing there. I know it sounds crazy, but I was upset and needed to think, he says, as a juror raises a skeptical eyebrow. Then Daniel drops a bombshell accusation. He suggests that Lauren might know more about Grace's disappearance than she's admitted. The courtroom explodes in murmurs before the judge gavels for silence. Daniel: Lauren, she was very upset that Grace wouldn't let us be together. She said things would be easier if Grace was out of the picture. Head snapped toward Lauren, who looks stunned, face ashen. Daniel goes on, claiming that on the night Grace went missing, it was Lauren who lured Grace out of the house. According to Daniel, Lauren told him she wanted to talk it out woman to woman with her sister that evening. He says Lauren arranged to meet Grace at a park down the road. I stayed home, Daniel stammers. I figured they needed to sort things out. That's the last time I saw Grace, when she left to meet Lauren. The implication lands like a thunderbolt. Daniel is insinuating that Lauren could have been the one to harm Grace, or at least that Lauren was the last to see her alive. Lauren's attorney, she has her own legal counsel observing, immediately leaps up in protest, and the prosecution erupts. Objection! This is outrageous and unsupported by any evidence. The judge sustains the objection, instructing the jury to disregard Daniel's speculative accusation. But the damage is done. You can't unring that bell. Jurors steal furtive glances at Lauren, who is now silently weeping, her face buried in her hands. Could the unthinkable be true? Is the wrong person on trial? To follow up Daniel's claim, the defense produces a crumb of corroborating evidence. A text message from Lauren to Grace, sent the evening Grace disappeared, saying, "Come outside. I'm by the corner. We need to talk, just us." Lauren never disclosed this to police. She had testified that she hadn't spoken to Grace that day at all, a live omission that now casts a shadow over her credibility. Lauren is recalled to the stand in rebuttal, looking cornered. She admits she texted Grace to talk, but insists Grace never showed up. "Yes, I wanted to tell her about the affair that night," Lauren says, voice quaking. "But she didn't meet me. I drove over, waited, and she never came. I figured she didn't want to see me, so I left after 15 minutes. The defense pounces. How can a jury trust anything Lauren says now? If she hid that critical fact, what else might she be hiding? Lauren has no good answer, beyond desperate reiterations that she got scared and didn't want to get blamed for Grace's fate. The prosecution, scrambling to protect their key witness, points out that none of Lauren's DNA or fingerprints tie her to any suspected crime scenes. The evidence all points to Daniel. They highlight that Daniel had a history of controlling behavior, a detail that came out earlier from one of Grace's friends. Plus, Daniel's spontaneous story about Lauren is very convenient, coming only after all the evidence against him has been laid out. This is a last-ditch Hail Mary from a guilty man. The DA says in closing arguments, urging the jury to see Daniel's claim as an act of desperation. The jurors look overwhelmed by this whirlwind of accusations and contradictions. They have two starkly different narratives. The prosecution's carefully constructed portrait of Daniel as a cold-blooded husband who killed for love and lust versus the defense's chaotic suggestion that Grace might be alive or that Lauren, the grieving sister, could be the real culprit. The truth feels slippery. As both sides make their final appeals, the big question looms. Will the jury even be able to reach a clear verdict? After days of gripping testimony, the case goes to the jury. By now, the trial has become a local media sensation. Everyone has an opinion on who's lying. Outside the courthouse, crowds of true crime followers speculate wildly. Daniel did it, no doubt. Wait, maybe the sister helped him. What if Grace is still alive? Cable news trucks line the street, churning out melodramatic headlines about the Midwest love triangle murder. It's a circus. But inside the jury room, 11 women and one man methodically sift through the evidence. They replay recordings, review text messages, argue over motives. The deliberations drag on for 2 days. Then, at 4 p.m. on a cloudy Friday, the court receives word. We have a verdict. The gallery holds its breath as the foreperson stands, a piece of paper trembling in her hand. Daniel rises to face his judgment, flanked by his attorneys. Clerk, on the charge of first-degree murder, how do you find? Foreperson, we find the defendant, Daniel Lee Miller, guilty. A collective gasp echoes through the courtroom. Grace's mother closes her eyes, tears of relief streaming down. Grace's father nods gravely, clutching a framed photo of his daughter. Across the aisle, Lauren breaks into loud sobs. Whether sorrow or relief or shock, it's hard to tell. Daniel's face collapses. He sways on his feet as if the life has been knocked out of him. No, I didn't do this, he whispers, shaking his head while a bailiff steadies him. His lawyer rubs his back, already murmuring about an appeal. But the jury has spoken. Judge, Mr. Miller, you've been found guilty of murder. The state mandates a sentence of life in prison. With that, a chapter of the saga seems to close. Daniel Miller is led away in handcuffs, officially a convicted killer. As he passes by the witness stand, he locks eyes with Lauren one last time. Her face is a streaked mess of mascara and tears. Daniel's expression is a storm of anger and heartbreak. In that moment, almost looks like he feels betrayed. He leans toward her and utters something under his breath as guards pull him along. Lauren covers her mouth, sobbing, and doesn't respond. Outside the courtroom, reporters shout questions at Lauren. Do you believe justice was done? Do you really think Daniel acted alone? She says nothing, hustled out a side door by her family. The public is left to wonder. Was this outcome the truth, or just the end of a tragic miscarriage of justice? Weeks later, life in the small Midwestern town struggles to find new normal. Daniel sits in a state penitentiary cell now, appealing his conviction. He continues to insist he's innocent, telling his lawyer and anyone who will listen that Lauren knows more than she's saying. Most of the community, however, is convinced that Daniel got what he deserved. In their eyes, he's a monster who betrayed his family in the worst way. As for Lauren, she has vanished from public view, leaving town amid suspicions and sideways glances. The rumor mill hasn't stopped churning about her. Some say she moved to start fresh where no one knows her past. Others whisper that she couldn't bear the guilt and had a mental breakdown. Officially, police have cleared Lauren of any wrongdoing due to lack of evidence. Unofficially, even some officers admit the case's outcome feels unsettling. I think there's more to the story, one anonymous detective told a reporter. But we may never know. And what of Grace Miller? In the end, she is the one conspicuous by her absence. A year has passed since that fateful night, and Grace's body remains missing. On a quiet street corner by a rural highway, a faded missing poster with Grace's smiling face still flutters on a fence. Forgotten by most, a ghostly reminder that without a body, this tragedy has no true closure. Legally, the case is solved, but in every other sense it feels painfully unfinished. Where is Grace? What really happened to her on that mysterious night? The trial answered nothing about those questions. If anything, it raised new ones that haunt everyone involved. As the camera pans over sun-bleached flyers and wilting flowers from an old vigil, we're left with the uneasy truth. Sometimes justice is a story with loose ends. Did Daniel Miller truly murder his wife? Or is he paying a price for someone else's sins? Is Lauren hiding a dark secret behind those tears? Or is she just another victim in this twisted tale? The verdict brought formal justice, but no peace. Not for Grace's family, not for community, and certainly not for Grace. In the fading twilight of that Midwest town, the final secret remains buried with Grace, wherever she may be. And so, this case ends not with definitive answers, but with a lingering, terrible question mark. When love turned deadly in the Miller family, the truth itself became a casualty. Where is Grace Miller?